Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar, Business Intelligence from Analytics to AI for Manufacturers. My name is Kelly Blount, and I'm the Program Marketing Specialist here at General Electric Credit Union. We're so glad you've joined as we have a lot of great content ahead, and we wanted to thank you all for tuning in from the comfort of wherever you may be today. Please note this meeting is being recorded. By attending today's webinar, your attendance is agreement to being included in our recorded session. I like to start each webinar with a couple housekeeping items. If you've joined us before, this will be a repeat of information you may already know, but if you're new to our webinars, welcome. As we all know, technology can sometimes be finicky, so if we run into any issues, please bear with us and keep in mind we are recording today's webinar. So with that, let's get into it. To reduce background noise, all attendees are automatically muted upon joining. Should you have any questions, please use the questions feature in your attendee panel to submit your question. If you're on a computer or smartphone, there's a drop-down located in the lower right corner. For the sake of time, we may not be able to answer every question, but we will reach out to you after to ensure your question gets answered should we not be able to get to it during our time today. Additionally, after today's webinar, you will receive a pop-up that takes you to a survey. Your feedback is very important to us as we continue to expand our webinar program, so please take a quick moment to provide us feedback on how things went and what you'd like to see for next time. As I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared to our events page in the coming week. You'll be able to view this webinar as well as all previous webinars on demand on our events and YouTube page. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Katie Burba, the Vice President of Small Business and Commercial Lending here at GECU, to introduce herself and today's guest speakers.
Good morning. Thank you, Kelly. I am Katie Burba. I'm the Vice President of Commercial and Small Business Lending with General Electric Credit Union, and I'd like to welcome Amend Consulting today. Craig Todd is the Chief Executive Officer of Amend Consulting, which is a 90-person management consulting firm that helps mid-market and large market companies scale and transform their business through people, processes, and systems. Craig is a serial entrepreneur who bought 2 manufacturing companies last year along with his business partners. He serves on 2 nonprofit boards and 3 for-profit boards. He has a ton of energy for helping businesses grow and get stronger. And then we're also joined by Doug, who has been working in data science and innovation for almost 20 years previously, was the VP of Data Science at 84.51 and Senior Director of Research and Development at Kroger. His teams have delivered real-time technology that transforms organizations. At Amend, Doug collaborates with Cincinnati companies to leverage data science to improve top and bottom performance and takes pride in delivering value with over 90% of data projects. And I failed to mention Doug's last name. It's Doug Meiser, who's a partner with Amend Consulting. With that, I will turn it over to Doug and Craig.
Hey, good morning, Katie. Thanks for having us on here. And we're excited to talk about what everybody's been talking about in the marketplace, which is AI. And today is going to be more of our thoughts of what we're seeing in the marketplace, how it works, the journey of that. And that's what we're going to get into today. If you have any clarifying questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask. And then we will take more questions at the end. And just so you know, we have more slides at the end that we can give other examples if you want to go into more details. So I'll kick us off and get us started. And then when it gets to the part where we need somebody actually smart to identify it and help us get into more details, that's when Doug will jump in. And we should be jumping in back and forth. So have fun with this today. And again, we're looking forward to it. So Katie mentioned just a little bit about us, and we've been doing this now for the last 19 years, and working with a lot of companies here in town, but also companies across the country. And it's become the hottest topic, AI, as you can imagine. And there's a few takeaways I'd love for you to have along the way of this. And you'll hear us repeat it several times. For the most part, the concept of AI is not new. It's hit a marketing level that's getting everybody excited, and people are able to jump into this for the first time and have different tools that they can use like ChatGPT. So it's hit an all new high as far as people wanting to understand more. The second part of this whole thing is that it's a journey. So it's not going to be something that you start with and you finish up by the end of the year. This is many years of a journey to get to the most advanced AI or analytics. And then the third part of it is, when we talk through this, I think most people get very confused on the complexity of it, because they're talking about the end goal versus just getting started. So I hope by the end of this, it'll give you enough courage to start the journey, and don't worry about overcomplicating it. Just get started with it. So with that, let's talk just a little bit about, what is AI? And here's the definition. Got to have a definition, which is AI is the ability of machines to perform tasks that traditionally have required human intelligence, such as perception, reasoning, learning, decision making, and natural language processing. Which that makes it sound like the robots are taking over, which is not necessarily the case. Don't panic yet. And then let's jump more into this. With any good consulting firm, you have to always have a maturity model. This is our maturity model of how do you start out with analytics. And the piece of this that I really want to emphasize is that this is a journey. And think about it, since we just had the Flying Pig Marathon, I'll use that as the analogy. So if you think about the Flying Pig Marathon, and if you're not a marathon runner, and next year you want to run the Flying Pig Marathon, which, by the way, I do not. I only run if somebody's chasing me. But the way you get started is you don't go out and run a flying, or you don't run a marathon to start practicing. So it's really starting out with the basics of, hey, where are you at on your journey? So are you just trying to jog for a mile for the first time? Where are you on this? Is a year from now is more of a 5K a good goal versus the marathon? And really, that's the same exact way we want to think about the whole AI journey. So most companies, they're really starting with that, starting from we call it the AI abyss, where we're not doing much, but you're now starting to get into your data, understanding data. And the hardest part that we see with the companies that we're working with is they're not sure what the next steps are. So you just figured out what are those first steps, and then figured out that foundation. And even when we started Demand Consulting over the last 19 years, we always talked about transformation. You have to hit on 3 levers, and no difference with AI. The 3 levers are the people, the process, and the system side. The system side is more around the data that we'll talk about in just a little bit, but you also really need to understand the process. What are the correct processes? Because if the processes aren't appropriate, it's not going to work. And then the last piece of it is, which is the most important piece and the most difficult piece, is the people side. Understanding change management, understanding adoption. How do you get people involved in this? That's the bigger piece. A lot of people don't realize how critical it is for the change management to get the adoption. That's why so many companies, they end up calling the flavor of the month, where they try something for a little while, it's not adopted, and then they go on to the next thing. AI is going to be critical that you get on this journey as quickly as possible. because companies will be left behind if they don't figure this piece out, especially the data around the data and the early parts of this. So with that, I talked about the first level already. That second level, and then I'm going to turn it over to Doug, is figuring out then, where do you start the reporting side? If you're not measuring, you're not going to get better. So what's the appropriate reporting, and what's the right amount of reporting? And the most easy example is when most of us got in the car today. You may not have, because this is a webinar, but if you did get in your car today, you'll notice that there's a dashboard, and there's basic things that you need to know when you get in the car. You need to know, hey, that the car's turned on, that you actually have gas in it. You need to know the speed limit, otherwise you may get arrested along the way here. And there's some other basic things that you want to know on a dashboard. What we don't need is a cockpit of an airplane. And sometimes we've seen clients go that direction, where they start measuring everything. And when you measure everything, then it's really hard to focus on what's the most important things. So with that, I'm going to let Doug talk for a while, and I may chime in along the way.
Morning. Craig talked a lot about level one, and we like to talk about level one. Is the simple way to get started is use the assets, use the systems you have. Now, the reason this is so important is when you're leveraging the systems that are already in place, the ERP system that in today's world might not be connected. What happens is you start generating data. Data is the lifeblood of everything AI. And so as you start to get your teams and your companies to use this across the manufacturing plant floor, that data is now saved off and it can be used for step two. Step two, you start reporting. You start basic of leveraging that data to drive better and better decisions. Inside of step two, stage two, you will start to see companies pilot their first project. Learn how to do change management across your company at a meaningful pace. Reporting, your data warehouse. As you start to get value and start taking the basic steps to be a data-driven company, you start to assemble a plan. And in level three, you have more AI delivery, consistent reporting across, and consistent business intelligence across your company. At this point, you have a data plan. You understand where your data is, how it's organized, how the key systems are feeding into it. To get to step four, you have to have a plan. And you're going to be using this across all critical departments. You can't have one of your biggest assets not leveraging the latest in technology. And level five may or may not be right for everyone. Level five is the industry killers that drive new AI that change the industry. And we do not see that level five is actually right for everybody, but somewhere level 4 to level 5, we see consistent benefits from adopting an AI approach. So we're going to jump in and talk a little bit more about level 2. So inside of level 2, we see a lot of reporting. You can now see what happened yesterday. You can see the machine utilization, your product mix and profitability, your cost analysis. What are you actually paying for the products you're producing? We see self-service BI. And the difference between BI and reporting is, BI, you can interact with the data in a much better way. You start to bring in machine learning, AI, or augmented analytics. And this can help with any of the bullet points on the right. Advanced planning, capacity analysis, some business process automation or back office automation, and then managing and monitoring your portfolio. As you build this out, the lifeblood of AI we've talked about is data. And so this is where programs on improving data quality, data governance, and then change management and ops and data all kick in. Inside of level 2, getting data right is critical to getting your AI journey going. Now, you don't have to have every component of your data accurate to start your first AI project, but the data has to be good where it matters. What is the project you're trying to solve? What problem are you trying to take off your team's plate? The data needs to be reasonable in those sections. And again, please, please, please ask questions as we go through this. So what we have here is two different dashboards. And again, this isn't the cockpit, it's the dashboard. The goal is that you actually get in here, interact, and can dive into any of these in a really quick fashion. So every time a men builds a dashboard, we're making it so you can get to any information you need very, very quickly. You can filter by your division. You can dive down into the financial statement on that first one to figure out the key components and what's changed, and then be able to jump across and see what's triggering your key business. You need to be able to look at this and say, why, answer the questions that you have on your business in a very fast fashion.
Yeah, my favorite part of the dashboard is that the information is live. So you're not waiting for somebody to create graphs and information that is already out of date by the time it gets published. So we started using this for ourselves 6 years ago, and it's like you can't live without it once you get it. So this is the early stage of AI, and you may already be beyond this, but for those who are not, we want to make sure that we're starting more towards the beginning. But even just having live data at your fingertips helps you make better decisions, because we've all seen it in the past where people are making decisions by their gut and there's nothing to back it up.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So the dashboard on the bottom is another executive summary, and it talks about the production, your on time and full. As you can see, the 66.7%. And again, these are made up dashboards, very representative of what we've done for multiple clients. You can see total pounds produced. And then what you can do is use the top filters to interact with your data. So you can look at the facility, what each facility produced. If you want to track one particular item, you can look at it from an asset or a product perspective. And it gives you the ability to jump in and figure out how your plans are going against what you're expecting. Again, at this stage, what's super important as you get started is, and the way we like to go to market is, we know when we're bringing this, it's new for our clients. So we tend to get things in front of them very quickly to give them a taste of what it is and iteratively build this together. We want our customers to own this at the end. So we developed that reporting structure. And again, it's going to be a very fast iterative cycle with our team. Second step, why BI and what's necessary to make this happen? Again, more charts on the right of what we've done for past clients, simplified, can very quickly see what's happened for them. We talked a little bit about data management, data governance. I typically see eyes gloss over when I say data governance. At the end of the day, there's a source of data, and how that is managed and manipulated across your organization is super important. Simply defining who owns that to make sure it's important is a massive start to your data governance process. This gives you the ability to have clean data where it matters. As you have clean data, you can now make data-driven decisions to start improving operations little by little as you're going through this process. As you connect all these dots, it's amazing what happens is it starts to create the competitive advantage in the AI culture and the focus on data that you need to be the powerhouse you're hoping to become. And again, I'm not seeing any questions in chat, but please keep them coming. So what are some really cool BI tools that let you get these reports, like Craig said, real-time data displayed, and that allow you to interact and drill down? So you're not just getting a report and have to find the right report. You get a dashboard and it'll let you drill into the dashboard. There's two leaders that predominantly are the most popular tools out there. First is Microsoft Power BI. Second, you can call it Salesforce or Tableau. Tableau was the early winner in the early 2010s, and then Microsoft made a massive investment in, probably 2016 timeframe on, and just have come in and dominated the market, taking a lot of market share. When we look at our clients and help them pick the next BI tool for them, again, we're technology agnostic. The things on the left here are what we typically look at for what's important for them. And we're going to look at their technology stack to see which one interacts the best with their technology stack. We want to make sure all of them have great data visualization. How easy is it to connect to the data? Can you query it? How good is the security?
I would look at that chart and utilize that as when you're making either a software decision or some decision that's going to help you on the AI journey. So you can use the same type of methodology.
Again, to see a question in chat, how does employee buy-in progress when embracing the data? Yeah, it's a great question, and Craig hit this at the beginning. When we look at BI tools and AI tools, analytics, anything in this spectrum, getting buy-in early and understanding the customers or the employees' problems day to day and making sure that we are using these tools and building these tools to solve their problems is absolutely critical. So getting that early look and making a collaborative effort is super important.
Yeah, I would also add, when you're doing change management, the communication, you can't over communicate. You know, we've never walked in a place yet at this point where they said, wow, all of our communication is perfect. That can be for both work and at home. So that is a critical piece. So part of that change management is really getting everybody to understand why we're doing this, how we're going to do this, you know, what's the roadmap, how we're going to help people along the way so that everybody's going to get up to speed. You know, most people, they don't mind change. You know, everybody thinks people hate change. They don't hate change. They really hate the transition, and the amount of time it takes in that transition is the painful piece. So if we can get there faster as a company, and everybody understands why we're doing it and how we're doing it, it becomes a lot less fear-based.
Great. Thank you, Craig. All right, so with that, we're going to jump into level 3. So how do you start applying data science, artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, insert new buzzword here, to drive your organization to the next level? The one that's gained all of the buzz right now is ChatGPT or generative AI. We break AI into 3 general buckets, and generative AI is just one piece of that. So on the left, you see, you know, narrow AI, and we have 2 classic systems you've seen over and over again. First is predictive and prescriptive analytics. So predictive analytics is what's about to happen, and prescriptive analytics is, now that I know what is about to happen, what's the best I can do about it? There's a whole class of AI analytics techniques, from optimization, simulation, neural networks, that jump in and solve these problems really, really well. The second class inside of narrow AI is sense and response systems. So think through self-driving cars, robotic systems, advanced IoT embedded into advanced manufacturing. These allow you to see the current conditions and build a plan and navigate that plan in a really strong way. And then the third that's in general AI is generative AI. That's your Microsoft Copilot, your Gemini, ChatGPT. We can go down the list of all the net new systems. The reason this is here at a level 3 is we believe Microsoft Copilot specifically, just because a lot of enterprise stacks are heavy into the Microsoft framework, can really benefit from Office 365 and Copilot. It's very quick adoption. A recent Stanford survey just found a lot of efficiency gains as you adopt this across your suite. As much as 40% improvement in email, 30% improvement in Teams, again, just improving the modern office worker. What other projects do we see at level 3? So we talked about enterprise Gen AI. Another popular one is AI for AP automation. So we have multiple clients, 50,000 invoices coming in on any given day. How are those entered? How are they processed? Automated document processing is really good at doing object character recognition, leveraging and understanding what is on the screen, putting customer names, addresses into the appropriate fields in your ERP system and getting the data in there. We find that clients not only can automate and speed up AP automation, but they actually improve billing, invoicing. Imagine finding that your team wanted to take the more conservative route and not overpay something or underpay something. And to do this at the right level tends to improve your total performance. The second one in a similar note is AI for order entry. We see this a lot in job shops where you have to collect a lot of information. Imagine a process in today's world where it takes 30 days for the salesperson to get all the information necessary to the shop floor. A lot of it is just questions that aren't answered. And so somebody, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's sourcing, looking for what type of product you're going to use, they're searching for information to be able to fulfill that job. That's possible to make sure all of those questions are answered day one so that you can close the gap and do order entry much faster and get the orders to the shop floor at record time. Again, as we're in level 3, stage 3, we see a lot of clients, especially inside of manufacturing, benefit from inventory optimization. In inventory with AI, you can decrease inventory at the same time as decreasing your stockouts. There's a lot of capacity and scheduling improvements possible. So you can, the biggest problem we see with most folks is needing more throughput, more throughput, more throughput. Advanced scheduling systems can stack things in a smarter way to consider many more combinations than the human brain can come up with and get more throughput at the end of the day.
For the longest time, you would always hear about lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, which is still critical to all this. So that's the basis. And then when you put all of these other opportunities on top of it, we've seen just incredible throughput gains, efficiency gains, etc. So it takes the lean and Six Sigma to the whole next level.
Yeah, so one of the other common ways to get started is forecasting. Can you tell on a product, customer, volume, what's about to happen to your business? Price optimization typically can leverage your upcoming forecasts and figure out the right blend of high volume activity versus low volume to maximize your profit margins. Inside of manufacturing, we're seeing a lot of companies ask for early warning systems. Again, think of the sense and respond we just talked about. You have all this IoT data. Can you pull it all together? Can you show what's about to happen to your facility and understand what's the best plan of attack now that you know what's about to happen? There's an entire brand of analytics called simulation that helps with things such as bottleneck and detection and removal. We have a couple examples on that. And then customer analytics is super popular. You know, the classic Netflix recommendation, or when you're on Amazon and it's recommending products that you want. The scary math that goes on behind all of that. So as we jump into inventory optimization, this is a problem we've solved multiple times. The benefits number you see on here is very typical of what we keep seeing with clients. Well, how do we do both? How do you reduce inventory by 34% and reduce stockouts? Well, the answer is what we find over and over again is the math that's been implemented in the past. One is wrong. Two, the customers will have more inventory on the wrong products and not enough inventory on the products they need. So why is the math wrong? Well, in the math literature on economic order quantities and safety stock, there's a little assumption in there that it tells you, hey, this needs to follow a demand that's normal. This needs lead time that is normal. And then this is the equation that works. Every ERP system that I've seen to date starts with that as a foundation, is how to set in your economic order quantities and safety stock. So if you want to take this to the next level, what we typically do with clients is we take demand data, that's that graph on the bottom left, and we plot your demand data, and you can see it, and then we turn that into a simulation of your inventory. So as you see, inventory in the middle graph start off at 12,000, drops down to 6,000, hitting an order point, and then a couple of days later, the order comes in, and you can see it go back and above. So the bottom line is your min, your top green line is your max, and you can just see how your inventory behaved over the previous year. So you can then test this and figure out how to streamline your inventory to get better inventory positions, test it against your data under your conditions, and how to get it in a way that improves your stockouts so your customers are getting the products they want at the same time as freeing up cash or freeing up inventory. We've seen this multiple times, and almost every time it's a 30% inventory reduction and a 50% improvement in stockouts.
I want to check in real quick before we keep going through more examples. How are we doing on timing?
We're good.
Okay, we'll keep going. The res is always a fun one. So
as we talk about forecast and understand what's about to happen to your business, new ML techniques, forecasting techniques keep coming out. A couple of years ago, we were asked if we could use forecasting on low volume items. So items that were getting forecasted just very, very rarely, or getting produced very rarely. And there was a new method that came out. We took it, tried it, and it outperformed all the other previous machine learning techniques. The chart in the middle is a classic chart where we were comparing sales year over year over year. And what we found was, in this particular case, a machine learning technique called gradient boosting worked really well. And so essentially, it just helps reduce your error over and over again to produce a stronger forecast. Every forecast that we do for a company looks different. Their objective looks different. The problem they're trying to solve with this prediction is different. With the Reds, it was fun. They said, could you do better at advanced ticket sales and understanding the ticket sales that are about to happen? So this was pre-COVID. We were jumping into the conversation, and I remember after producing the forecast with them, a couple different phone calls where it was, hey, there is no way this number is right. On Monday, we'd get a call back and say, we wish we would have listened to you faster. And essentially, we used a lot of things to better understand what variables drive volume. And it was a really cool conversation with the Reds team, building that with them in a way that helped drive so they can better make sure you have enough ice cream, your operations, they got enough people to seat and host and get the concession stands working in a really strong way. So we talked a little bit about simulation. We got a sample simulation really small on your screen as we were going through one particular plant. Simulation is great for two things. One, identifying where your current constraint is in your operation. If you do not know where your current bottleneck is and making sure that that machine runs all the time, this is an easy tool that can be applied to drive absolute throughput through your machines, through your entire plant. So it gets started what looks like drag and drop technology, right? Where these little pieces that you see on the screen are different machines and work centers across your plant. The little buckets here are your inventory or your shelf space where your products are sitting as they're waiting to be produced at the next machine. Where the nerds come in is we grab your data and put statistics behind it so that we can operate and show you what your plant looks like on a day-to-day basis, and also what it looks like if you change anything. What if you added another machine at the bottleneck? Does it simply just shift your bottleneck down the line and you don't get the added throughput? So this is a great way to understand how to manipulate your current processes, but how to better drive capital investments to make a difference. It's not uncommon for simulation projects to have 10 to 20% total plant throughput because we can identify the bottlenecks and eradicate them the right way with your teams. We talked about sense and response systems, and this is the last business case that we have. But sense and response systems are a lot of fun. So imagine grabbing a bunch of IoT data. In this particular client, we were working to improve quality, and as we improved quality, we saw throughput go up. this particular case, we implemented a host of sensors. One of the most important was temperature. And by collecting this temperature data and spiking real time, we were able to drive defects down almost to zero because of the fact that how important temperature turned out to be for this client. In other cases, we take IoT data from speeds, feeds, temperature, humidity, combine all of that data to better understand machine reliability, predictive maintenance, real-time early warning system, so you understand how much product you have at any stage and what's needed next. You pull all of these together and you can build very powerful predictive and prescriptive systems that help drive a plant better because you know what is about to happen. In this particular case that we have on the screen, the control charts for temperature, after we got to a point and identified that temperature was the root problem, drove a 25% improvement in scrap as we simultaneously drove massive improvements in total throughput. You're no longer working on product that didn't need to be produced in the first place and getting that first pass yield much higher. So we tried to cover today a bunch of techniques to get started. As Craig said at the beginning, we believe AI does not have to be a journey that's scary. Don't try to train for a marathon running 26 miles tomorrow. Take your first step. First step is use your current systems, get your data right, get a simple tool like Microsoft Copilot. There's multiple ways to get started and start unleashing the power of AI and analytics across your organization. So with that, we'd like to open it up with any questions.
We have a few that were pre-submitted, so we can go ahead and jump into those. The first one says, as an organization, how would you determine who may be AI leaders and influencers inside your company?
That's a great question. Yeah, who may be AI influencers inside your company and leaders? So there's a couple important things, right? One is, you got to be able to get leverage and take your data and use it. Who's system forward thinking and who's willing to change? So we tend to look at it from those perspectives. Who's already got good system work? Who's wanting to take and improve their operations? And who's willing to work with, we say nerds at Amend. It's a term of endearment, I promise. But who wants to work and collaborate to drive to a better future?
Yeah, I have a little bit of different take than Doug has on that. I feel like those are the folks that are going to help execute it and make it happen. To me, it's when the leaders at the very highest level understand the need for it. They may not know the how to, but they understand the need and how it's going to change the business and how they're going to utilize that and make different decisions and better decisions and hopefully much faster. Great question.
Another question we received is, are efficiencies in the process measurable when the alignment is improved between people, process, and systems?
Absolutely. Yes, and the ROIs are really fast on this. When it's a throughput gain, you can expect an ROI in less than a year. And it needs to also show up on the financials. It'll take a little bit for it to show up, but I wouldn't expect it to take more than a couple months before you also see it in the financials. So I always get cautious when people are doing their return on investment, because it has to hit the financial line, the P&L, otherwise it's not a true savings.
Yeah, and there's a term we use called custodial control. There's a term coined by FedEx, and essentially, did you do what the system asked you to do? And what this gives you is two things: a measure of the people and the system, but also an understanding of where the system can improve. And when you measure this, what happens is something magical as far as a continuous improvement effort against your continuous improvement systems. And it just gives you an ability to get the levels you may or may not have believed were possible.
I believe that's all the questions we have for now. There may be some more at the end, but it looks like that's all that have come through at this point.
Okay, if there's, if we're out of time, we can also pass on these slides.
No, we're good. We can continue to go through them. It actually looks like one just came through in the chat. It says, do government contractors use this technology? If so, how are security concerns addressed?
Yeah, the government's absolutely using this. And in a lot of cases, they lead this. Securities, the government follows a lot of different protocols on security to make sure who has access to it. Obviously, everybody's familiar with the leak from Booz Allen Hamilton and one of their contractors years ago. And that again goes to every security is also a people, process, and systems consideration. But they since then tightened down who has access, the login, the tracking across all those assets to see how the information is being used. Anything to add to that, Craig?
I would just say that understanding where that information is going is critical. I know there's a lot of companies that are locking down ChatGPT because you can get great information out, but if you put all your information in there and you put your data in there, then other people are going to have access to it. So there's definitely a lot of clamp down around that piece.
And it's also why we see a lot of clients asking for Microsoft Copilot. So Microsoft did a really good job thinking through the security layers inside of Gen AI, and you have access to the files you have access to. And so, Copilot will interact with your data uniquely. So as other questions are kind of coming in and trolling through, one of the slides we like to point to is top 10 signs of AI deficiency. So, if you see this, essentially, you have opportunity to continue to advance. Every company has opportunity. The more you are going to look at and see, the more opportunity you have. So these are, again, just things that as you sit back and look at it, don't ever let data, AI only be for the data scientists or your AI developers in your organization. That your entire organization should pull for it is an example on number 10 there.
Another question that we received is in regards to business intelligence platforms. It's asking which system is easiest to use for data querying and building the dashboards.
Yeah, I would say the two most popular ones in this space are Microsoft Power BI and Tableau.
Most people are using Microsoft BI because it's the least expensive and does what 99% of most companies are going to need. It's plenty advanced.
Absolutely.
Our next question is in regards to inventory optimization. It says, would such reporting provide effective and efficient ordering of the inventory or materials needed to make the products so that the materials are available when needed and there isn't any delay sending out the product to the end user, however, not having so much in stock?
Yeah, this is, we see this inventory optimization work really good on raw materials and finished goods. And, you can apply that two-layer approach where you look at the items that you should have in finished goods, help determine that, how much you should have, and then work backwards and have your raw materials to make sure when your plant is needing to run, the raw materials already exist. So we do this with multiple clients, like I said, at both levels.
And then it looks like this might be our last question, unless there's any other questions from our attendees. If you have any questions, go ahead and submit that using the questions feature. But this last question says, what are the top systems for AI and analytics that your clients prefer?
Yeah, that's a fun one because that kind of changes based on how the architecture is built for that particular client. What it typically looks like is, you got to have some sort of data layer. And so you got to have a data lake house or a data warehouse, depending on where your maturity is on the data spectrum. That technology, assuming you've got that set up, there's typically some sort of analytics layer where you have a compute stack. Inside that compute stack, it typically is Python right now. The past 10 years, it would have been software called R. Both are open source. Both are extremely good, leveraged by Silicon Valley, Fortune 25, to take and do advanced analytics. And then that data is pumped somewhere, right? And so it goes to either back into your ERP or other systems, or it presents back in a layer like a Power BI or Tableau. So the top two would definitely be Python and R. And then there, all the cloud stacks have really good layers to help make it even easier. Cool.
And another one just came through the chat. It says, for medical applications, how is patient confidentiality ensured?
Yeah, that's a great one. So HIPAA is defined a matter of law of what's allowed to be done with your data. And, this protects not just your data, but how your data is used. And so there's the law, there's precedence on what you can do with that, and get across. So absolutely. So there's forms you fill out, the consent, just like they are online, gives that extra access if like you're at Children's Hospital or somewhere else and you're wanting them to be allowed to take your case and improve it for future customers or clients.
We go through a lot of work to make sure that data is secure. And fortunately, we've not had any issues.
And it looks like that may have been our last question. So we can open it up. Doug, Craig, Katie, if anyone has any closing comments or pieces of advice in the AI space, feel free to share your best advice.
This is Katie. I just want to thank Craig and Doug for their time today. As General Electric Credit Union tries to market ourselves and get our name out there in the market, we love manufacturing, and we thought this would be a nice product to offer to some of our current manufacturing clients and to continue to get our name out there. So we welcome any feedback from any of the attendees. I'll be trying to reach out to each of you just to get that feedback and that input from our attendees. And with that, Doug, Craig, do you have anything to add?
No, we're grateful to be part of this, Katie, and we also love manufacturers. If anybody has any more questions or have any would like to have a conversation, you have our email on here. Feel free to reach out to us. But thank you again for letting us be part of this.
Thank you. And I have to check out myself. I didn't know about Microsoft Copilot. So I learned something even from the banking side.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you, Doug and Craig, for taking us through today's content, and Katie for sharing a little bit more about what you do here at the credit union and how we can be of assistance. And again, thank you to all of you who joined us this morning to go through today's content. I do have a couple closing comments. Just once again, you will see a survey. As Katie mentioned, we really value your feedback, so please take a quick moment to fill that out. It takes no more than 2 to 5 minutes, so it's very quick. So please just fill that out as we continue to expand our webinar program and our offerings, and hearing from you on what you'd like to see for next time. And then lastly, up on the screen is a list of our upcoming webinars. We are in the process of adding more, so if these topics aren't of interest to you, definitely be sure to check back soon. But with that, that is going to conclude today's webinar. Thank you all so much again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.